Oh my gosh, we have to take a boomerang right now. No, that's not good enough. Let's do it again. No, that's still not good enough. The lighting is all wrong. Okay, here we go. So do you remember back in the day when we had to hand out flyers to get people to our shows, and when we had to like beg for shows out of town where nobody's ever heard of us before, and then we had to like hope that we got paid enough money so that way we could afford gas back home or like gas to the next gig? Like, do you remember when people talked to each other at dinner? That's an interesting one. I don't know why you would ever talk to someone at dinner, when people would stop and ring your doorbell instead of just sending a text here when they pulled up. Like, so much more convenient now. Those were different times. Man, I sound old. We gotta actually do a video instead of just bitching about stuff, right? What's up, everyone? I'm Colt Capperrune. Thanks for stopping by for yet another video. You all are the best, and I hope that this video helps you. Before we get started, I just want to give a shout out to the sponsor of this video, which is me. I'm the sponsor of this video. So, you have to listen to my ads. If you're new here, I would love it if you would hit the subscribe tab and the bell icon next to it so you get notified when I drop sweet videos. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it or got something from it, and drop me a comment. Let me know what you think. I'd love it if you would share this with your friends if it helped you in any way, shape, or form. If it didn't help you at all, feel free to hit the thumbs down twice. I had to steal that from Gerald Undone. And since this video is on social media, love it if you'd hit me up on Instagram at Colt Capperrune. Facebook is just Colt Capperrune. And check out my website, coltcapperrune.com. There will be links in the description for all of those things. Social media, one of the most necessary evils when it comes to being an entrepreneur and being an independent artist, being a producer and a mix engineer, pretty much anything entrepreneurial. Social media is a really, really powerful tool in terms of promoting what it is that you do. In my opinion, it's the single most powerful tool that we currently have to get out there what it is that you are trying to do for a living. I really think independent artists are the future, and it's an interesting thing because it means that you have to be good at more than just the musical thing that you're attempting to do for a living or that you are doing for a living. Holy cow. It is straight pouring outside. You have to be into photography, and you have to be into film, and you have to be into all sorts of content creation. You have to have an interest in marketing. You have to be interested in how this social media thing works and how to get traction on it. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you now have to be good at as an independent artist, as to where before, back in the day, you would sign a record deal and someone else would take care of all that other stuff. Over half the Grammy winners last year were independent artists. That means they didn't have a label. And so we're in the infant stages of this really being an important shift in the music industry where independent artists are kind of taking over right now. What I want to do today is I want to discuss social media strategies and like different ways that I run my social media and different tips and tricks on how you can create better content and how you can get more traction, but not just traction for the sake of getting likes and followers, traction in the way that helps you promote what it is that you do, whether you're a singer-songwriter or you're a band or whether you're a producer or a mix engineer or whatever. Getting likes and followers and getting traction on social media doesn't really serve a purpose unless it accomplishes something for you. And so today I want to go over that and hopefully give you guys some tips and some tricks and some strategies on how to build your social media in a way that actually helps your music career. So the three things that I want to go over that I think are very important to be constantly aware of and constantly be trying to improve upon is your content needs to be interesting to the demographic that you're trying to promote your music to or what it is that you do to. High quality content is very important, so we're going to go over tips on how to make your quality go up and the consistency of which you post. So I see a lot of artists and a lot of producers, a lot of people trying to promote themselves on social media that don't seem to have any sort of a strategy as far as what type of content they post. I think the most important thing is that your content is interesting, that it makes people react, that people find it entertaining or interesting, helpful, educational, whatever your thing may be. If you're an artist, one of the things that I tell a lot of the artists that I develop and a lot of my clients is it's real easy to just think about like like, what do you wish your favorite artist would post? What kind of content would you be most interested in seeing from your favorite artist? Now this gets a little weird because A-list artists, like truly A-list artists, Katy Perry and Taylor Swift and, you know, they can post literally anything. So they're not a good example. But like the B and C level artists, they are really good examples because they're still trying to promote their music. They're still trying to use an effective strategy with which to get people interested in their music and keep people engaged, keep people entertained. And I don't think you should copy them, but you can use that as inspiration and get ideas from that on what kind of content you could be posting. And you can also use this because it's the kind of content that you're most interested in. What do you wish that your favorite artists would post about? And then there's your idea for your content. I think it's very important for you to post things that you're actually passionate about. What is it that really makes you tick? What is it that drives you? Because I think that authenticity can come through in the content that you create, and that makes it more interesting to people. Even if, you know, the content itself maybe wasn't that interesting, the fact that you're really passionate about something really helps people stay engaged and makes people interested. This is actually, I'm very passionate about this topic because I've largely built my career on social media. I got to the place where I'm doing this full time because of Facebook and Instagram, and it continues to provide clients and opportunities to work with companies and opportunities in all sorts of ways for me on a consistent basis. And so I'm very passionate about this, and it's one of the reasons I think why my socials do well is that authenticity and that passion comes through the content. I always have lots and lots of notes for this sort of stuff. This is a good one. This wasn't in my notes, but it's something that I want to touch on that just hit me as I was talking about this. I think knowing your target demographic is also very important. If you're a monster truck driver, your target demographic is a much different person than your job as a contemporary Christian singer-songwriter. And so being able to identify the kind of people and the narrow niche of people that would be interested in what it is that you do, I think is super important, so that way you can create content aimed at those people. Okay, the next thing that I want to talk about is quality. How to create better quality content. Now, this is something that you should never wait until you have the right camera or the right set to film in. You should never wait. But what I think you should do is always make the best of what you currently have to work with. Now, everyone has one of these. Everyone has a cell phone. Pretty much all these smartphones nowadays take pretty good quality photos and pretty good quality video. You can absolutely make great content with this. And for a long time, this was all I used. I didn't have a real camera. I just used my cell phone. But still, there's a couple ways to make sure that your quality comes out a little better. The first thing that I've never heard anybody talk about is just wipe your lens off. You know, we talk on the phone and you put your finger right on this lens and it gets fingerprints on it and all kinds of crap. Every time you go to take a photo or a video, just take your shirt and just wipe this lens off. Make sure that lens is clean. If you're doing it in selfie mode on the front, you're talking on your phone, it's probably got face grease all over it. Just wipe it off. Just make sure that that is clean and ready to go, so that way your footage or your photos will look the best that they can look from the device that you're using. The next thing is lighting. And lighting is very, very important when it comes to creating good looking content. But you don't have to spend really any money on it, and definitely if you're gonna spend money, you don't need to spend a lot of money to get started. So the first thing you can do is just walk up next to a window right there. Let's just do this. So these are my lights, but those are not always necessary. Actually, they're not necessary at all. One of the things that I think is important is to just be conscious of, like, you can just walk up to a window. Look at that. See? It's even like rainy and disgusting out. But just walk up to a window and use the light from the natural light from the window. This doesn't look that great. This looks much, much better. And so you can just start with natural daylight from a window. That's the first, cheapest, obviously, way, or you can film outside. All right, so the next step in lighting would be something like this. This is just a 4-foot fluorescent tube shop light that you can get from Lowe's or Home Depot. Comes with little bitty chains. You can literally just hang this on the wall right in front of you. your lighting will be amazing. It'll be so much better. These are like 15 bucks. And so you can spend a very, very little amount of money to get a light that makes your content look really good and really professional, even if you don't really know what you're doing. It's just a good way to get started so you can film or take photos at any point in time with very little money invested. And then, of course, after that, the sky's the limit. However much money you want to spend on professional lights if you ever get to that point or you feel it's necessary. But I just want to make that point that just using natural daylight from a window, just a $15 shop light from Lowe's or Home Depot can drastically increase the quality of your content. And little things just like being aware of, like, try not to film with a bright light behind you when there's no light in front of you. Always face the brightest light and just generally pay attention to what looks the best and experiment with a few things. When you go to take a photo, when you go to take some video, experiment with a few different positions and a few different shots and a few different lighting scenarios. Like, just kind of play around and try to pick out what looks the best. Because believe it or not, people react to stuff that looks better, and it's because you're portraying the idea that you care about the quality, you care about what it is that you do, and that's important on a subconscious level for the people that are consuming your content. So in terms of photos, the next thing is editing. Play around with some editing software, just kind of fiddle around with it, see what kind of vibe that you think you're most drawn to, or what kind of vibe of editing that you feel like you would like to see from your favorite artists. You can pretty much edit anything in a pretty great way right on your phone. Even the stock iPhone photo app now has really powerful editing tools in it. For me, I have found, like on Instagram, that people react more to brighter images, things that pop harder, brighter colors and brighter lit photos, and photos with the shadows lifted, for me and my demographic, seems to get more traction. Your mileage may vary on that. There's a lot of us that create some sort of video content this way, whether it's for Facebook or Instagram, Facebook Lives or Insta Stories, or just actual video content that gets posted. Maybe you're doing it here on YouTube. So the next thing I want to talk about a little bit is your set. What everything looks like. It takes very little effort to make something look decent. I mean, the first step is, if you're filming in your bedroom, just clean your room, make your bed, it takes very little effort. Make sure stuff's picked up. Make sure you don't have the plate and cup from last night's dinner on the desk behind you. And, just take a little bit of time and spend a little bit of energy figuring out what you want it to look like and how can you make it look better. Even if it's as simple as a plain wall with one light and you're up against a wall, like, that's still a nice clean look, and it comes across a lot better than being in a messy room or in a room that's not interesting to look at. Pay attention to your set and just try to get it looking as best as you can for what you have to work with and for the space that you have to work with wherever it is that you're shooting or filming. Always be asking yourself, how can you make this better? How can you make stuff more interesting? How can you make it more interesting to look at? The content, the caption below it, like, how can everything be more interesting? And pay attention to, over time, what makes people react. And you see, oh, this post did really good. Why did that post do really good? Was it the way it was shot? Was it the way that it was edited? Was it the caption? Was it what I actually did in the photo or what I actually did in the video? What about that made that work? And then 3 weeks later, you post something that doesn't get any traction and you say, well, why didn't that work? Why didn't people react to that? Was it a bad time of day? Was it that I didn't have my hashtag game on point? And you just collect these data points over time, post after post after post, and you start figuring out what makes people react, what makes your demographic react, and what they don't really care to see. And then hopefully over time you can incorporate that a little bit more in each post until you get to the point where most everything that you post is very interesting and people react to it constantly. And that's when you really can start watching your fan base grow and watching your interaction grow, when a majority of the people following you find what it is that you're doing interesting on a consistent basis. Okay, so the next thing is consistency. Now, I think it's very important to be consistent in how often you post, and try to be as consistent as you can with the quality of what you post. I think that's really important. We can't all be perfectly consistent sometimes. Sometimes I have this nice camera with me, and sometimes I just have this cell phone with me. Sometimes I'm in a studio that has terrible lighting, and I'm not bringing photo lights to a session in a different studio, so I'm just going to snap the photo, make it the best I can. But try to be as consistent as you can in your quality and in how interesting stuff is from post to post, but also be consistent with how often you post. Pretty much every social media, Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, I'm not really into Twitter, but they all work the same way in the sense that the more people interact with you and the more people react to what it is that you post and the more time people spend looking at your content, the more of your content they will see. And so being consistent with how often you post and the quality is pretty important to gaining traction over time on any social media platform. So what I always suggest to people to do is pick some sort of a schedule, whatever it works for you. For a long time, my schedule on Instagram was 1 post a day. And that's really difficult. It's really hard to have enough content to post once a day. But I think it's important to set a schedule, whatever that schedule may be for you. Maybe it's once a week, maybe it's every other day, maybe it's once a day. And then use that schedule. You've dedicated yourself to posting this stuff, and use that schedule to drive you to do enough interesting things so you have content to post. So this is kind of a double-edged sword. It then helps you be more productive within your music and entrepreneurial career while also giving you more content for which to promote what it is that you do. And so this is like a win-win scenario. So I think dedicating yourself to a certain schedule and doing your very best to stick with it is a really great plan in terms of building your career and your social media. Now, I know right now you're thinking, how in the hell am I going to do enough interesting things to post once a day? None of us do. Absolutely none of us do. I'm in sessions every day with great artists and great session players, world-renowned session players even, and I still don't do enough stuff that's interesting every single day. So what I do, and hopefully this will help some of you, what I do is I bank content. So when I'm doing something interesting, when I'm in a cool session or in a cool studio that I know people would like to see, when I'm doing something interesting that I know people would like to see, I make sure I document a lot of that. And so then I have that content to then sprinkle out over the next few weeks or the next few months or even the next year. Tomorrow on Instagram, I'm probably going to dig through and I'm going to find some session that I was in 6 months ago and post a picture of the console in the studio. Like, it's okay to bank content. And so that way you can spread all that content out over time. You as an artist, you play a big show. Make sure you get lots of photos from that show and lots of video. Hire a photographer, hire a videographer to film and shoot that show. And then hopefully you have 10, 15, 20 pieces of content that then you can sprinkle out over the next 4 or 5 months. And it really helps consistently post, which helps your algorithms. It helps people stay interested, helps keep you in front of people's faces, which is also something that's really important is when you're being really consistent and you're posting a lot, you're always in front of people's faces. So that way, when you release new music or when you need new clients or when you post that new music video, they're ready and waiting because you've been right there in front of their face for a long time and they're engaged and interested in what it is that you do. One thing I want to touch on real quick is hashtags. I see a lot of people that don't seem to really understand what hashtags do and why they exist and how to use them to your benefit. Basically, in a nutshell, hashtags are a file system for which the platform then knows how to show your content to someone who's not seen you or is not following you before. When I'm posting stuff, I hashtag like studio and producer and all of that stuff, but I'm also, my target demographic is artists. The point of this for me is to get clients. And so what I do is I use hashtags that artists use. So that way it places my content in front of artists because that's my target demographic. For you as an artist, your target demographic would be fans. And so figuring out how to use the hashtags to your benefit so that way it places your content in front of the most fans, that's really important. It's important to use big hashtags, popular hashtags, because since it's a file system and the whole point is so that way it can place your content in front of the right people. If you're hashtagging some hashtag that only 100 people have ever used before, it's completely ineffective. It doesn't do anything. So figure out what the most popular hashtags are that people that would be interested in what it is that you do would use or would be interested in and use those hashtags. So another thing that's really great when you really get your social media going is as it comes time for you to start touring, you as an artist especially. When it comes time for you to start touring and start playing shows, it really is a wonderful tool to use the analytics on your social media platforms to figure out where it is that you're the most popular, where it is that you have the most interest and the most fans, and then that can help you route your tours, it can help you book shows. So paying for ads on social media. This is something I see people try all the time. It's something that I have tried many, many times in the past. What's important is, one, your ad has to be super interesting, and it has to create traction for you if you're going to pay for ads. I have probably spent $5,000 over the past 10 years on social media ads, and I don't think I've ever gotten a single client from it, not ever one, because people work with people they know, and my clients come from some sort of a relationship. They've either been following me on social media for a long time, or they've heard some of my work and they want that level of quality on their music. We already know each other. However, you as an artist, if you're an artist watching, it's a little bit different because your point is to get your music in front of people. And so I think if you're an artist and you're trying to promote your music as an artist or as a band, I think ads are okay. The amount of money that is spent on marketing versus the money that's spent on production for some of these A-list artists is absolutely mind-blowing. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but on one of the Rihanna songs, I saw the breakdown, and the total cost of production for songwriters and producers and session time and mixing and mastering and editing and all the things involved in actually creating the music that you could listen to for one of her songs cost about $200,000. But then they spent another $800,000 in marketing and promotion, and there's probably some payola in there. They literally spent 4 times more on marketing the music than they did on creating the music. Now, I don't think that this should stop you from releasing music if you don't have the ability to do that, but it's something to be real conscious of. If you have the ability to have a marketing budget in any way, shape, or form, you should do that. Social media ads and Google ads are a great place to help you promote your music. If you have any thoughts or ideas, concepts, strategies on this social media thing, drop me a comment and let me know how you approach it. If I didn't cover something you think is important, I'd love to hear from you. This is a very interactive topic, and so interacting with you guys is something that I take pretty seriously on this particular topic specifically. So drop me a comment, let me know what you think. If this helped you in any way, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe and the bell icon next to the subscribe. I really, really hope this helped you, and I really appreciate you sticking with me all the way to the end. Like, seriously means the world to me. That's it. I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, peace.